They're both faking us out. They're putting her name up there just to try to throw us off.
1, 2.
Just her evening substitute, just for the evening.
Takes two of you. I got it.
Who is on the 805 number? You're muted.
Travis.
Okay, thank you, Travis. I just counting who was here. 2, 3, 4. Quorum is 7, correct, everybody?
Looks like it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ooh.
7. Count yourself.
2.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
6, 7.
Roberto, Alejandro, and Travis is down to the bottom. 7.
And I just let someone else in.
And it looks like Jerry. Wait. Welcome, Jerry. We have a quorum, so Jasmine, if you're ready, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Are you ready?
We are ready, and just so everyone knows, the meeting is being recorded.
Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the December 28th Palm Springs Parks and Recreations Commission. For those of you who are just tuning in and seeing, this has been, bear with us. Jasmine and I talked a little earlier today as Cynthia called me and told me that she wouldn't be able to attend this evening. If those of you who do not know, Cynthia has come down with the COVID-19 last Thursday. Her father had it, her son has it, her husband had it, and she has not been able to do the meeting tonight with us. But I will say she was able to get everything together and ready for our meeting posting. So we're going to go from here, and I believe it's going to be a very productive meeting. So with that said, I would like to defer to our acting director, Jasmine, for our roll call. Oh, I'm sorry. Our Pledge of Allegiance we need to do first. Could you all stand? And could I ask Johnny to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag?
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States
of America and to the republic for which it stands,
to the republic for which it
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. That was supposed to be done by Cynthia's oldest son, but we're have to make some changes tonight. Now can I go to Jasmine for a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Chair Boley,
Present.
Vice Chair Coronado,
Present.
Commissioner Alcorn. I thought I saw.
Sorry, present.
Okay, thanks. Commissioner Crawford. Did
Not
not
yet.
see his name.
He's not here yet.
Not yet, okay. Commissioner Martinez,
Here. Present.
Commissioner Armstrong,
Here, and I may cut out, and I'll have to call back in because I'm in a bad cell area.
Okay.
Commissioner Diaz,
Here.
Commissioner Mortet,
Here.
Commissioner Cohen,
Here.
Commissioner Goodman,
Here.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to just defer at this point to recognize we do have a new commissioner on our commission tonight, Chantal Sanchez. I met her about 4 or 5 months ago when we were doing some interviewing. And Chantal, would you just take like 1 minute and tell everybody a little bit about your background here in Palm Springs?
Sure. I am a resident of Palm Springs for the last 3 years via Long Beach, also in California, obviously. I have 3 children who have participated in programs that Palm Springs Parks and Recreation has provided, including the Tiny Tots program, swim team, which was the Elite Otters, and just other various other programs that we have offered at the parks. and I live right in the Sunrise Vista Chino area. So I'm quite local, and I work in real estate.
Okay, thank you very much and welcome to the
Welcome.
commission.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
Chantal.
Jasmine, could we have a reporting on the posting of the agenda, please?
Absolutely. In accordance with policy, the Palm Springs Park and Recreation Commission, the agenda was posted on or before 5 p.m. Wednesday, December 23rd, 2020. And it was posted at Palm Springs City Hall as required and established policies and procedures.
Okay. Everyone received a copy of our minutes from the previous meeting on November 23rd. Does anyone have any additions, corrections, or suggestions to be changed on the minutes? Do we have a motion to accept the minutes as published?
I move to accept the minutes as published.
Commissioner Diaz motion, and a second is coming from
Second.
Commissioner Alcorn. Do we have any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand, but let's see, and we have
Aye.
everyone in favor that was there. Any opposed?
Aye.
Who was the opposed? I'm sorry. And Chantal would be a sustained because she wasn't in attendance yet on our commission. So I'm assuming that was a unanimous that last I came in late. At this time, Jasmine, do we have any correspondence to read or share with the commission?
We do not.
Okay. This time next has been set aside for members of the public to address the Parks and Recreations Committee on agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter in the jurisdiction of our commission. Although the commission values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take action on any items not listed on our posted agenda. We have 3 minutes for anyone who would like to be a speaker, and I do see that we have Paul here. And would you like to go first, Paul? If you would just unmute your mic and we'll recognize Paul.
Thank you, Alan. Paul Henriksen, Palm Springs resident. I'd like to briefly speak about a proposal for Lawrence Crossley Memorial Art Park, a pocket park. And my husband and I put this together a couple of years ago. We submitted it to the city when they were asking about ideas to remember Mr. Crossley and tell his story. And we never heard anything back. So we pulled it back out, sent it to the Arts Commission and to the your Parks and Rec Commission. And I believe it's been circulated, hopefully, the PDF. And there's not much more beyond that proposal that you see in there to share, other than that there is a mistake in the original part because of boundaries. The original outline of the proposed pocket park accidentally included one private parcel, but the majority of that outline is still part of a pocket park. That was a miscommunication from a few years ago with a temporary planning department individual. But there's still lots of room for a nice pocket park for that neighborhood. Mr. Crossley's story is an important part of Palm Springs history, and it really needs to be elevated, and this would be a great way to do it. It would be a way to do something nice for the Lawrence Crossley neighborhood. But what I want to emphasize the most is it's not my husband's and my story to tell. It's really the story to be told by the Lawrence Crossley neighborhood, members of the city who are connected to Mr. Crossley and his story. And there are many people in this city, including on the Arts Commission and on your commission, that this would be their project. So we're really just bringing forward a framework where it could start and they could take it from there and be their project, not ours. But it's an important story. We're hoping will get elevated and shared and told, and being a pocket art park could go a long way to bringing light to his story. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you very much, Paul. Appreciate that. Do we have any other public comments? If not, we will close that section of the meeting. And I will ask if we have any city manager comments. Jasmine, do you have any presented to you?
I do not have any comments from the city manager's office at this time.
Okay. Our next would be our staff updates. Hi, Stacy. I would
Hi,
like to,
Alan.
how about if we just go and we ask for Director Schaefer to give us some updates, staff updates on her section of the parks and what's happening.
Well, park maintenance has been very busy. As we all know, the dog park opened last week. Very, very popular place to be right now. And we actually, for those who don't know, we were able to get the restroom trailers set up prior to the opening. I'm actually working on some signage right now that I'm going to put on the fence tomorrow morning to, even with a little arrow to help encourage people to find their way to those restroom trailers as needed. Basically beyond that, I believe all of our overseeding has been completed. We did start doing today some additional red ant treatment with the county. They're doing Ruth Hardy today, and I think a few in the dog park. In the next few weeks, we'll have some of the, this is the revisiting the areas that we had additional impacts that didn't, basically that we didn't abate in the summertime. So that's really one of the big ones. And all overseeding is now complete. We've already started to fertilize and add a little reseed here and there as we can. There has been obviously a little bit of rain, which is always a wonderful thing for us. So with that comes a little bit of tree trimming. So we'll be doing just minor branches that are low hanging. And we did start, per the city council in the last meeting, they approved us to do the palm tree trimming citywide. We started that a few weeks ago. And again, I want to be clear, that's palm tree trimming only. That was the $200,000 that were allocated. At this time, in basically having discussions with Marcus and finance, I don't believe we're going to have the funds before the end of the fiscal year to continue on with the additional approximately $1 million worth of tree trimming for the other non-palm trees. But I'm still hopeful. I'm not going to give up on it. And of course, if we have an urgent need, if there's damaged trees or dead trees, we're still addressing those as we go. And I think the benches and are moving forward. I think we have most of the benches downtown and throughout the parks all set up for the Art Commission for their stuff. What else do we have going on? I think minor irrigations. We have a lot of water main breaks right now. Primarily where it's Demuth and some in Ruth Hardy. That happens to us every now and then when we have the significant shift in weather. You know, that the PVC is not a big fan of the shrinking and expanding really fast with our hot, cold, especially when the PVC meets the galvanized, which is a lot of our older infrastructure. So we're working to resolve all those issues and try to update as we can.
Let me ask a question that has been coming around. How's everything going with the pickleball courts and the water problems and everything that you had addressed? I know with moving back the vegetation.
We moved back the vegetation. We're working with wastewater on more of a long-term plan to mitigate the issues they have coming from their side. And that's going to be one of them. I believe it's not quite a capital, but it's a pretty significant investment for them. The other issue that we're working on with both the pickleball courts in Demuth and even the tennis courts at Ruth Hardy is we're having some issues actually in all of our parks, to be honest, right now with vandalism. We have some transient folks that are taking refuge inside some of our buildings, inside some of our storage areas. And unfortunately, in some of our restrooms, we also have those areas are also the electrical rooms. And there's been some unfortunate vandalism occurring in some of those areas. So that has a pretty serious impact on the lighting and some of the other, in particular, the two court areas that we have in those two parks. So we are trying to keep up with that and looking to put in, I'm actually meeting with the door vendor tomorrow to see about putting in some more hardy, tamper-proof doors and locks in some of those areas.
Okay, Vice Chair Caldonado, I saw you had a question.
Yeah, Stacy, I have a question for you. So those electrical problems that you might be having at the pickleball courts at Demuth, the lights seem to be okay, but the parking lot, though, there's lights out there, but there's no lights that are on. And when they're finished done playing pickleball, it is dark. I mean, it's black. So I was wondering how that's coming along, or if you know about that.
And that one actually, I think that's tied in with the restroom project as well. And that's what is happening now, because they're going to be doing a complete renovation on that little restroom, that little block restroom. And unfortunately, that Edison tied everything, that whole section, all into that one box. So we're working with engineering and to try to get the awarded contractor to put that up on a higher, see if we can get that a higher priority. And actually, at last I heard last week, it looked like they were interested in moving forward within the next week or two. So that being said, hopefully within the next week or two. If not, then we're just going to pull it out of that project and probably do a smaller scale. But we don't really want to patch something like that. So the real long-term goal is to have it tied in and have it all be done so that when they come in for that restroom renovation, it's already there.
Got it. Thank you, Stacy.
Commissioner Crawford, do you have your hand up?
Yeah. Hi, Stacy. I just wanted to ask about the issues with the gophers or the moles that we're seeing in some of the parks.
And we talked about the ground squirrels, especially. We have ground squirrels in both Demuth and JOJ, and we have moles in Sunrise. And we have moles in Sunrise and Demuth. Right now, the solar and electric sonic sound devices that I had tested out had basically no impact. I'm not sure that the squirrels didn't dance a little bit with it. It didn't repel them by any means. So back to trying to figure out what the state will allow us to use as far as a legal deterrent to minimize the amount of activity and of course breeding that occurs. But the big thing obviously is for us to work with the landscapers that every time that they're in every maintenance that we fill the holes to avoid any kind of damage or, in particular, any safety hazards, trip hazards, but the undermining of the sidewalks, undermining of the electrical, the infrastructure, the PVC, that's a big concern. And at this point, we're very open. I'm happy to I'm still researching, but if anybody has any indication or any idea of something that is safe and appropriate for us to use, I'm willing to try anything.
Commissioner Crawford, that was so handy when you had your hand raised on your screen. Would you tell the other commissioners how you did that so that it can be used by everyone? It's easier to see. Can you tell them where that was, how you did that?
Yeah, I think it's in participants. You click on the side and then you can go over, it'll show your name and it has mute me or raise my hand. And then I'll go raise my hand again, it'll go on and then I can lower my hand.
Thank you. That makes it so much easier for me to see who might be raising if I'm looking from the side of the screen.
Just so you know, also, if people are using a computer, on the bottom, there's a button called Reactions. And if you click on that, raise hands also an available option.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for Director Schaefer? Stacy, I thank you so much. And we may come up with something if you're hanging around during our meeting.
I will. Thanks,
Thank
Alan.
you. Now we'll go to Jasmine to see if there's any updates on Stafford Updates that you have from Cynthia.
Absolutely. So these are the following reports from Director Alvarado. James O'Jesse had their holiday toy giveaway event, and they served over 90 families. The James O'Jesse Desert Highland held a pizza pull-up event at the beginning of December. For the safety of the public and staff, unfortunately, our Hot Cocoa with Santa drive-through event was canceled. However, we already had goodie bags put together, so we did get those distributed to those who had already been registered for the program. There was a collaboration with the management union and the general unit with the city of Palm Springs, and we provided toys to the communities who had a need, and the following communities were served through this particular program. The Demuth community, the Golden Sands community, Coyote Run 1 and 2, the Santiago mobile homes, and any gifts that were still remaining were given to the Well in the Desert, who did a gift distribution to the public on Christmas Day. Virtual camp started this week. We currently have 10 children registered, and we're expected to register additional children throughout the week. The Prop 68 per capita projects got their funding request approved, and those projects were the ball field project at James O'Jesse and the swim center shade structure. Janice Lopez with our staff and Commissioner Alcorn got certified in level 2 archery so that they can provide some programming to the public. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Going easy on her because this is not her department, but she may take notes and get back to you. If not, we will move on to our discussion and action items that we have. And our first one would be a discussion on our project updates verbal report. Normally, Don or Joe or someone from engineering is here to inform us about what's happening with our project updates, and I don't see them on my screen.
Cynthia
I will
wasn't
tell
sure.
you, excuse me?
Sorry, Cynthia had mentioned she wasn't sure if someone was gonna be able to make it today.
I can tell you, all of them except for Jay are on vacation, so I take that as a no.
Oh, okay.
Good for them.
Well, I was down at the downtown park and it is moving along. They have the walls up before the structures of the police substation, the water feature. They're down to the ground level above the parking garage to the solid surface where they'll start working on the stage down in that area. And next they'll be bringing in the dirt and the rocks and everything. And it is moving along and looks like it's coming. I don't know whether anyone else has anything on our updates of our restrooms or that would have come from them. So we'll have to wait until January to find out about the updates on that. Okay, now we have an update discussion of our COVID-19 updates as far as projects in our Parks and Recreations facility. Please, Jasmine, you're muted.
My apologies. One update from Director Alvarado. She says, we will be suspending some of our programming for the next 2 weeks. The pool will remain open with the limited programming that we are currently offering. We are going to try and take the classes that we're offering out in the parks and offer them virtually in the meantime. And that's about it.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, Alan, I'd like to chime in on that. I also, the city manager today, we had a department head meeting. We will be shutting down our city buildings again. We've had quite a few outbreaks in virtually every department at this point, in most of our city facilities. So we're trying to have as much closed up as we can and staff working remotely as much as possible. And about the only thing that is going to be remaining open would be a few of these programs. So just to be aware, the City Hall is going to shut back down. All the little bits that we had opened, we're now getting some impact from that. So we're going to tighten all that back up and try to encourage staff to work remotely as possible.
Thank you. Any other comments from that area? Okay, our next one is a discussion on the draft of the Parks and Facilities renaming policies. And I'm going to turn that over to Commissioner Crawford, Commissioner Cohen, and Vice Chair Caldonato. They have been the subcommittee working on this. And as we came into this meeting last week and working, we all were noticing that Cynthia was not able to talk and work much with us. So they have put together the presentation, so they're all ready for us. So I think, as Commissioner Crawford, are you leading, or I'm handing it to you all?
All right. So the subcommittee, we met a couple of times, David and Johnny and I and Cynthia. We met a couple of times via Zoom. So the policies that we were looking at, we looked at a couple different policies from other cities. We looked at Denver as well as Santa Ana, El Paso, and I believe Santa Barbara. And we just kind of chose the Denver one. It was the most in-depth. And we just started the draft from there, and then kind of gonna work from there and remove the items that we think fit our city or don't fit our city, or add and take away. So some of the things that we were running into were just permanent naming for parks. Should it be time limited, or should all names be permanent? And we're looking for feedback from the commission on this as well as signatures being gathered before the petitions are filed with Parks and Recs. So how many signatures should we have? And also we wanted to make sure that the applicants compile a petition and secure support of neighborhoods that are associated with the designated park areas. Those were just a couple of the things that stood out to me. If the other commissioners want to add in a little more.
Commissioner Cohen, go ahead.
I would just add on to what Dieter was saying. We had some really robust conversations in the subcommittee around a couple of things. Part of what we thought the ordinance would be deliberately important to have explicit rules around what is allowed and not allowed, or can be considered and would not be considered, with the idea that if somebody came and said they wanted to have a park or a substantial asset within a park named, sometimes emotionally something has happened, someone has died, or there's been some sort of an altercation, and it's hard to say no in that moment. So we noticed that a lot of the other cities specifically had protocol in order to be able to say what can be considered and what can't be considered. As a for instance, most cities said you can't name a park after somebody who is an currently elected official or appointed official, or you can't name a park or major asset from somebody who is still alive, with certain exceptions. And then they said it has to be at least 3 years for, and you'll see that in our draft, from the time someone has passed away. So we thought those were all things worth considering, because you don't want to have something that may be named in perpetuity, named as a knee-jerk reaction to something that is going on in a community or going on in the city. That said, we had also some conversations, and Dieter, please, you can probably talk more specifically about this, but Desert Highlands community has already been deeply engaged discussing some naming because of some of the things that have gone on there during the last year, particularly 2 youths who were killed recently. And we decided as a subcommittee that we would recommend to the full commission that because we're now coming up with guidelines, whatever we decide to do as a commission now, or whatever the council may do, we would recommend that those considerations not have to follow necessarily what we're putting together in the guidelines, so that we don't derail. We basically grandfather that community, so we make sure that we're honoring what that community is already doing. And Dieter, if there's other things you can add to that, please feel free to chime in because it's Desert Highlands.
Yeah, so as David was saying, with the naming, we did see that there was a 3-year period of a person being deceased. And we weren't sure if it should be 3 years, 2 years, or 1 year. But as a subcommittee, we did agree to basically grandfather in this current situation with Desert Highland due to there not being a current ordinance in place. But going forward, there will be, a time period. But that's one of the things that we wanted to discuss as well, how long it should be.
I believe everybody got the file on this. Is there any sections that you all want us to look at and discuss and get some feedback from the commission? Because I know I have my copy here, and I think everybody has their file that was sent out with the minutes. Go ahead.
Chair Boley, I would just say that 2 things, staff. First, this is still a rough draft, and it cobbles together pieces of the best of all of the ordinances we saw, using Denver as the major backbone for it. And we then tried to, as Commissioner Crawford has said, make sure that it took into account what is specific to Palm Springs. So when you read through it, you'll see that. And again, it's still rough. Cynthia, in her not feeling well, tried to get this out quickly. So please excuse any of the typos or things like that. That's not essential to what we're doing at the moment. In addition to that, though, I would say that part of it is process. And to lay it out in big picture, what you'll read through here is that there's an application that the community has to put together, and they have to follow certain things, including getting community support, as evidenced by, as Commissioner Crawford was saying, a number of signatures. We'd love some feedback from other commissioners to help us guide what the number of signatures would be appropriate for a community. It's then also presented to the registered neighborhood or neighborhoods. We have to have their support and a letter from them saying that they support what's going on. It can then be brought to the Parks and Rec department through the director. The director would then make sure the application is complete and everything is put together, and then it comes to the Parks and Rec Commission. And then the Parks and Rec Commission has to consider it. If it considers it, it can approve it to then be sent to the City Council. So it goes through those layers, and the City Council would have to consider it through 2 readings, an initial reading and then a second reading. It could be adopted. And it's deliberately done this way, so it's a slow, deliberate procedure, again, because naming is supposed to be taken very seriously. And when a name is done, not only can it be there for a lifetime, but then it excludes the possibility that something else can be named that way. So you'll also see a part of this is, can we consider renaming facilities that are renamed here? And the answer to that is yes, but only under very specific conditions. And then something that we've had a lot of conversations, we'd love to get the full commission's discussion on this too, is should names always be in perpetuity, or can they be designated for a limited amount of time? And in the nonprofit world, for instance, sometimes major assets, say an opera house, and I'm just picking something out of the blue right now, has a name, but it's no longer done forever. It's done for something like 50 years, because they know in 50 years it's going to be another generation, and they may need to go raise another $2 million or $10 million to redo that facility, and they want to be able to put a name on it again. So those are the kinds of things that we were thinking. And we had some really great discussions. Commissioner Crawford and Commissioner Coldonado and Director Crawford, Alvarado rather, were saying that really good back and forth about when things ought to be in perpetuity and when we might also want to give the council leeway to do something for less than forever. And those are just things we thought that we all should be thoughtful for, because we're trying to put law together, an ordinance that doesn't exist for the city, and get council to adopt it. Sorry for being long-winded, but I'm trying to give everybody who hasn't necessarily had a chance to read through it all, those were the important parts and where we had substantive discussion.
Well said, David.
I think everybody's received a copy of this. Does anyone have any questions on, I read through it last week and I've already discussed some things and looked at some things. Does anyone have any questions they would like to ask of the subcommittee that is putting this together as to how it's going to function? As Commissioner Cohen said, once we make a suggestion and send it to council, they will have to do what they do to make it how they want it. Commissioner Diaz?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, gentlemen, so if somebody is interested, I know Johnny, you know, for a while wanted to name one of those fields after a young guy who passed away. And then, of course, we lost a couple students up at James O. Jesse area that we were talking about. So what will happen is, will a community member come to us and request that? I'm just trying to get the process in my mind, or would it be our commission as a group, and then we propose it to city council for approval? I'm just wondering if that, what would the steps be? If someone were to approach, I've already had people approach me about a couple of things. So I just want to know what the process is, just short version, so I can pass the information on.
Go ahead, David.
So, Commissioner Diaz, it is laid out in the draft, you'll see there, but to describe it briefly for you, and I just tried to do it before too.
I did see it. I'm just asking you, like, if you could give us the short version, yeah.
And I tried to just do it now, so maybe let me just do it quickly. Somebody would bring it up, and they would probably, if they didn't know what to do, their first contact would probably be the Department of Parks and Rec. So it'd be Cynthia and her office, and they would steer them to, in fact, there would probably be an application, and it will lay out all of the rules and what they have to do. And that will include all the information that's needed, as well as the first big piece is demonstrating that the neighborhood, the community in which the park is most directly situated, or communities, because it could be multiple ones, are showing support for this. So then they would go back and get the community support evidence that they need, which is talking to people, gathering the right number of signatures and showing that as a petition, as well as then going to the registered neighborhoods and making presentations to them and having them present a letter saying that they also, if their members are agreeing to this. And then they could bring all of that support to the commission, through the department to the commission. And the commission would have just what we're doing now, a substantive discussion about it. There could be public input, could be people saying they like it or don't like it for whatever reason. We would consider it and vote it up or down, or needs more information, or what we usually do. And at some point, if we agree, we would pass it along to city council. And then city council would take it up for consideration. And in order to pass it, would do it like a full rule change or law. It would take 2 readings. So it'd be a multi-month process on purpose, so it's deliberate and everybody gets to weigh in a community and have time to do it. Nothing is jammed through, and we can be sure that the community that is having this done to it is in favor of it. So just the flip side to that is we couldn't take a community that has a large underrepresented population or indigenous population or something, and suddenly everybody thinking they're doing something good and nice and not taking into account something that really should be taken into account, is to be really considerate here. So that's what we're trying to do. I hope I described it quickly, but that's what it is.
Any other questions for them? I know there's one that's been on my mind, is we put this all together because of the request we had for the naming of the ball field down at Demuth Park. Where does that stand, Vice Chair, with the people that requested those field? What did we do with that?
They're just waiting for us to come up with the renaming and the policies and the procedures, or the right protocol. So with this in place and how David explained it, it's methodical for a reason. I mean, these names are very important. So there's a process that we have to go by. And yes, it does take a little while, but you know, when you name something, you're naming it for a while. So that's pretty much where they're at. I know that they'll be very excited to know that at least the ball is rolling and things are moving. So that's where we're at.
Commissioner Crawford, is it the same situation with the ones that are requesting from Desert Highland? They know what we're working on it?
Yeah, they know we're working on it. And as Commissioner Cohen and Commissioner Coronado said, we did discuss the process in depth as far as discussing it with the neighborhood groups, but also the surrounding neighborhoods, because we know not all neighborhoods are part of the organized neighborhoods of Palm Springs. And we know that some parks are located on the borders of multiple neighborhoods. So we just want to make sure that everyone gets to have their voices heard.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions for the gentleman on this? Do we have any input or suggestions that they need to do?
Could I ask specifically, could we get a little bit of direction or your thoughts on the idea of time limits or how much time something should be named? Because we had some discussions ourselves and had multiple thoughts on it. Should there always be everything named in perpetuity forever? Should it be limited to, for instance, once a park is named, something, an entire park, that stays forever so it doesn't get confusing later, but maybe other pieces, other assets, the council has discretion as to how long they want to name something. What are everybody else's thoughts? Let me just leave it there.
We have some feedback. Commissioner Alcorn?
I'll speak up. I like the parks being solidly named out there, how they're established. That's a great aspect. And I feel if we're going to name ballparks or something like that, it's great. Put a term limit, 20, 30 years, so that, like they were saying, generational, it can, next generation will come up. We can change it out. Maybe even shorter than that. I mean, it's great having the parks named after, somebody. I mean, maybe even do it every 5 years for a ballpark. Hopefully we don't have that much going on, but it'd be cool to have the term limit, something where you can see it come full fold. That's my thought.
Commissioner Lamort?
I had a question about how extensive are we going to do this? For example, at Demuth, there's 5 ball fields. Are we talking about each ball field can have a separate name? Are we also going down to park benches, drinking fountains, pickleball courts? Are we talking any little thing can be named? Or I understand that if it's going to be a major thing, like, I don't know, the garden at Demuth Park, that probably can have a name in perpetuity. But a ball field, I would think it would be 2 or 3 or 4 years so that other people who are now playing the game might be able to get one of their folks in there. So my question is, how minuscule does the facility have to be before it gets a name? I mean, does every drinking fountain? And the reason I ask this is, one of the things, I guess I'll be personal about it, that bugs me about Ruth Hardy Park. When you go to for example, the tennis courts, every tennis court has 6 signs on it. I'm sick of all the signs. There are too many signs in Palm Springs. It's like, you can't do this, you can't do that on Thursday afternoon. There just seems to be so many rules, and to me, it looked like graffiti. 6 signs on a tennis court did not look attractive to me. It just looked too busy. Maybe that's just me, but I would think that every tiny little item within a park to get named, you're going to have so many signs all over the place. It's going to dilute from the important ones. So that's my thought. So I don't think they should be in perpetuity unless it's a a major facility that's going to be there. But for example, a ballpark, okay, you have, for example, if it's a high school kid who happens to be memorialized, well, in 4 years, it's a whole new group of people using the park. And so anyway, that's some of the thoughts I had.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Goodman, I see your hand.
Yes, thank you very much. So I'm going to agree with my colleagues. I do think that there should be time limits. That's a pretty standard practice in today's marketing of stadiums and other buildings. And if it is not philanthropically driven, then yes, time limits. And I think we've gone between different ranges of time periods. So I like what was said earlier around maybe a generation. And so if it was going to be in an honor or a memorial of someone, then there would be enough time for the family and the community to really know and understand, and then an opportunity for others to receive naming rights. And then I wasn't sure if there would be a separate protocol and separate standards for individuals who might be making philanthropic investments versus other types of namings. So I do think that that can become a slippery slope where somebody gets to pay and have the benefit, and then, you know, others might not have those resources. I know our city struggled with that a little around the stars on the sidewalks and who was getting a star and who could afford a star. So that might be a good place to look, is to see how they managed the stars on the sidewalks. It's good work, guys. Thank you very much for everything you've done.
Okay, Commissioner Lamort, your hand's still up, or you just didn't take it down? Or did you have another question? Your microphone's off too. We didn't hear any of that, but thank you. Okay, we won't call on him now. He didn't have another question. I thought he was going back to him. One of the things we got to keep in mind, I guess, if we're going to name these, we're going to be putting signs up. If we make it every 5 years, we're going to be spending a lot of money making signs and having them put up. So that's a consideration we need to think, is the cost of putting up signs, taking signs down, changing signs and things too, and how that would work. Do we have some input on the gift giving, or have we not got to that policy pulled out from the city? I know Commissioner Caldonado had asked us questions about that in the past. And that's kind of what Commissioner Goodman just brought up about gift giving for naming. I know we have our permanent fund for naming major gifts. I think that we haven't got that brought out from them yet. Commissioner Cohen?
Yeah, I would just say that the ordinance should be broad enough that it allows for that. Because there will be times when there might be a significant donation from whomever that the city council believes is appropriate. So we're not trying to say that it shouldn't be. We shouldn't think of it purely in the most negative of circumstances. Like Coca-Cola is giving $2 million so they get to name the stadium, you know, or something. It's not always like that. Sometimes there could be a foundation or other things that are doing it. But I do think that the law, the ordinance itself, should be broad enough and flexible enough to allow both the commission in its wisdom and then the city council in its wisdom to say whether they think it's something that is appropriate or not, with plenty of public input as well, because there could be times when it's allowed. I don't think we're going to be able to create a set of rules now that's going to take everything into account and be a safeguard against abuse of that specifically. So I think we have to just make it so it's generally something that could be considered, and then assume that people like us and council and public input will be the safeguards that are involved.
Thank you, Commissioner Cohen. Do we have any other questions or input for our discussion on our naming with our subcommittee at this point? You all have put together some great ideas and some great infrastructure for us to continue working on. I hope this continues over the next 2 to 3 months so that we can bring it up. But in the meantime, between now and the next meeting, if commissioners come up with something for this subcommittee, send it off to Cynthia to get to them so that we can get things working on and moving along with this. Do we have any other comments that we want on that section? If not, we're going to move on to our reports and updates from our ad hoc committee. And our first ad hoc committee, I know that was on my list, is Commissioner Lamort and your art in the park. And I know we have people here that help you with that. So I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Lamort, and I know he has Patrick here also.
Well, first, I'm happy that Patrick is here. I think it's important for us to congratulate Patrick on a great project. If you haven't seen it, he has provided to Cynthia a list of all the projects that were done. And I even know there's more than this, but if you haven't seen it, they've done 4 benches and 2 trash receptacles at the pavilion, benches at the swim center, benches at Sunrise Park, Day of the Dead altar, it was in Victoria Park, a bench at Victoria Park, and 3 benches at James O. Jesse. So there was a lot of work done. I know I stay home a lot, but I get in the car just so I don't go crazy. Now, if you drive around Palm Springs, you see nothing but beautiful, bright park benches. They're everywhere. And I think they're fabulous, especially in this day and age when everybody is kind of depressed and down. You're surprised by how bright and vibrant they are. And so again, Patrick, I think you did a great job. I really appreciate it. I know your contract I think it's up this week. I would suggest that if the Public Arts Commission wants to do more, we should do it. I think it was a great project, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Thank you, Commissioner. And thank you, Commissioner Diaz, for helping out too. Is it okay to just say a few comments while my mic's open? Everybody can hear me? Well, great. Well, thank you for the kind words. Yeah, it was really fun, and I got a lot of great feedback, or we did. I guess the biggest challenge was not the heat, but finding kids willing to come help in August and September. It was great. You know, we were able to kick off our first project at James O. Jesse. I was lucky to be one of several artists that helped out with Commissioner Sean DeFavreau of the Arts Commission, and with Jarvis Crawford's help. We had a lot of fun up at the park there, got to meet some of the community members, and if you haven't been up to James O. Jesse, there's art everywhere now. So it was wonderful to do that. And then we moved over to to Director Alvarado's neck of the woods and did the 4 benches and the little quad of the pavilion, which I got to know almost all the swimmers on a first name basis. They walked by every day and thanked us for brightening up that little quad. And then we moved down to the pool and did a couple benches there, and then prior to Day of the Dead, councilperson Grace Garner reached out to Cynthia and to Director Ann Sheffer of the Parks Commission, wanting to do a Day of the Dead altar, which we ended up doing at Victoria Park, which we've put all these projects on social media. It was a really great little community event. So we're happy to do more. The Public Arts Commission meeting last week tentatively approved another 6 months of the bench beautification project, pending this commission's approval. They're ready to go approve that, but we wanted to bring it to you folks and get your comments, suggestions. There's definitely park benches that need our love and throughout the whole park system. And we got a lot of great comments as well from people actually in the parks during summer, during COVID, socially distanced with masks on. It was good to be part of that and give back to the community. And the great feel-good part of it was Coachella Art is a 100% volunteer organization. We took funds that we earned through this little contract, and we bought art supplies for Raymond Cree Middle School, and also we're going to deliver a very large order to Desert Hot Springs High School once school is back in session, because due to an administrative mix-up, their art department got no supplies at the beginning of the school year. So their kids, and some of the best art comes out of Desert Hot Springs High School. The students out there have been working on notebook paper all year. So we're super excited to gift them a very large order of art supplies, which I think is going to go over very well. The head of the department there is super excited for school to resume and for us to be able to do that. So it's a great project that also helps students who are stuck at home during distance learning, and Commissioner Diaz will know what that's like. So anyway, thanks, and I'm certainly happy to hear any comments, suggestions, criticisms, or whatever. We're ready to do more. Thank you.
Commissioner Lamart, I think the information that you wanted to share on the screen that you sent to Cynthia, I believe Jasmine has it, if you're able to share it for him.
That's just what I was going to suggest. Jasmine, if you have the pictures, maybe just flash through them.
Absolutely. Give me 1 second so I can find it and share it.
Okay.
I do have it. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so this is from Director Alvarado. Oops.
Yeah, so this is Patrick here again. Just a little report I put together, images of, where'd it go?
Sorry about that.
That's okay, you had it up, yeah.
Well, she's trying to bring it up. As you walk through any of the parks up at James O. Jesse, you see these benches, and everything around there is painted and looking really much more cheerful.
Let's see. Okay, let's try that again. Can you all see that?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll just kind of narrate real quickly. So those first two images were tree benches, wooden tree benches that were at James O. Jesse. They were in really kind of dire repair. So we did lots of sanding, prepping, priming, and then we painted them to simulate a little racetrack. And this little girl came up during a little photo shoot that we did, and we got some Commissioner Favreau of the Arts Commission had some little Matchbox cars that she let her have, and she got to zoom around the racetrack. So that was a cool little project. And then the images below were those two little boys on the first image to the left are Cynthia's kids, Director Alvarado's little boys who helped paint one day. And then her eldest son is the one on page 2 there, is painting with the little blue roller in his hand. So those are the 4 benches and trash receptacles at that little quad area of the pavilion. And then the next page, these were the 2 benches that we did down at the swim center. So they're kind of bookended benches that we did. Part of our work with the kids is also to help celebrate all things sort of mid-century modernism and Palm Springs architecture. So we kind of work in some of those colors and do lots of cool patterns that are easy for them to help with. This was a red, white, and blue bench that we did over at Sunrise Park, kind of near the little circle drive-through area, right at the pavilion. And then this is a picture of a daytime and then the evening view of the Day of the Dead altar that we did. And we would love this, and so would Councilwoman Garner, love to make this an annual event. I built the wooden structure, and I've kept all those parts in storage. So this can be assembled every year as a Day of the Dead celebration and expand that. As you know, this is a great a tribute to where people can bring pictures of loved ones who've gone to the other side and pay tribute to them. And of course, we expect, we actually decorated the entire tree. It was at the foot of this beautiful olive tree right at Victoria Park. So we assume that each year, if we continue to do that, that there'll be more people will participate. Maybe we can even expand it. We kept it up for about 2.5 or 3 days, and then took everything down. But it was really a great, really a great project to work on. And that was it so far.
Very nice. I heard it said that the Arts Commission wants this commission's approval for him if we're in agreement with them to continue on forward also. Is that what you said, Patrick? We need a...
Yes, they're approved pending your approval to extend the program another 6 months, and then review that again in late June, early July.
So that would be something our subcommittee would be bringing to us, Commissioner Diaz and Commissioner Lamort, to extend it. Are you asking us to extend it? Is it that they seem to want to extend it? Does
You
anyone
need a
have any-
motion? You need a motion?
Patrick's saying yes.
Well,
Okay.
I just would assume you'd need a motion, since they took it up for a vote as well on the Arts Commission.
Well, then I'll move that we extend the Coachella Arts Park and Rec art project for another 6 months.
Okay, do we have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Who was that? For the Jerry Alcorn for the minutes. All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on that? If there is no discussion, then we go to vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Do I say a hand? Okay. Opposed? And so abstain. It looks to me like it was unanimous. So you can put that in the minutes that it was unanimously voted to extend the contract on that. Thank you all very much. This is starting to look good and get attention from people. If it wasn't for the problems going on in the world right now, we might have more people out in our parks to see it. Okay, thank you all very much. And our next one we have, right now we are in our ad hoc committee verbal reports updates. Do we have any other ad hoc committees that have met this month that I don't know about? Or do I need to go down the list to ask you? Does anyone else have another report? If not, we will close that section of the ad hoc committee verbal reports, and we'll move to reports and requests and commissioner comments. First thing on commissioner comments, I'm assuming that Commissioner Crawford, Commissioner Diaz, you got a notice that your commission is being extended because there's not time to do interviews in December. And you responded and everything's cool there. We are moving along until July is when the next, June is when the next change will be, according to the city clerk was telling me the other day. So right now we're in a holding pattern. They do hope to do some interviewing after the first of the year. So with that said from me, let's go around and start with Commissioner Cohen on the first line here. Do you have any commissioner comments to give us today?
I don't. Just as always, thank you to the department. I know it's been rough and COVID is surging, and I wish Director Alvarado a speedy recovery, she and her family.
And I'm glad to see you're recovered and back too. Commissioner Diaz. Commissioner Martinez. Commissioner Crawford.
Yeah, I just want to say once again, thanks to everyone for working through this unprecedented time that we're going through. I know this is all new to everyone. So we're also up at Desert Highland going to be doing a food distribution tomorrow on the 29th from 4 to 6 p.m. And that's the one we normally do with Fine Food Bank. We just moved it up to Tuesday due to the holiday. So I just want to encourage everyone, if you know someone in need of food, let them know that the Fine Food distribution is going to be tomorrow at 4 p.m. And then also we've been doing COVID-19 testing with Borrego Health at Desert Highland as well. And we were able to test 89 people last Tuesday on the 22nd. So be on the lookout for those dates as well. We'll be putting out more dates for when we'll be doing COVID testing with Borrego at Desert Highland.
Thank you. Commissioner Alcorn, do you have anything that you would like to add?
I'm good tonight.
For those of you, if you haven't gotten the brochure or information on Alcorn Adaptivities, cycling, and items that they have for handicapped people, Cynthia is I'm going to ask her to send that to all the commissioners if we haven't already. I know I had it, but it does add a lot of valuable things for some of the people out there that we work with. Commissioner Lamort.
I don't have anything.
Commissioner Sanchez. I don't see a microphone coming on. So Commissioner Goodman, do you have something you would like to add as a commissioner comment at this point?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to welcome our new commissioner. Congratulations. It's nice to have you here. And I wanted to give a shout out to Stacy and her group for the dog park. I've been able to go there and enjoy. It is very crowded, as she said, and the Paul traffic is very challenging, I'm sure, Stacy, with the new grass. But that's really great. Everybody's very excited about it. And again, a speedy recovery to Cynthia, and a happy new year to everybody.
Thank you, Commissioner Goodman. Vice Chair Caldenato.
Yeah, I wanted to welcome Chantal. Ditto off of what Ellen said and what David said. As far as Cynthia, everybody getting healthy, staying safe. Let's have a good New Year's. Let's have a great 21. And I appreciate everybody's work on this commission and everything that you do. Great job over there too, to Stacy and her team. Jasmine, you too, girl. Take care of you guys.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Caldenato. Yes, as we move along through this, it's been kind of rough trying to get everybody up and running with COVID-19 going. These meetings have been very difficult to get used to by doing Zoom. I'm so happy that everybody has worked with us because it's difficult to watch the screen and see if anybody's wanting something. Jasmine, thank you so much for stepping in today. You were a big help to get us through this, and we always love seeing your smiling face there.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We've got to learn to read lips because Commissioner Lamort's talking again. All right, if we have no other comments, do we have a motion that our meeting be adjourned?
I motion.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Caldonado, and we have a second by Commissioner Diaz. At this point, I would like to adjourn the meeting of the Parks and Recreations Commission into our next regular meeting, which will be by Zoom on January 28th of 2021. Thanks again for all your input, everybody.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, and thanks so much, Jasmine.
Ciao.
And Rosa, if you're still there,
Ciao.
thank you. Thanks, Rosa.
No problem, guys. Have a good night.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Rosa.
Bye, Jazz.
Have a good night.
You too.
Okay.